Hello, I'm Harry Riley. This is a change from my usual mystery stories. In fact, it's an unashamed commercial for dogs, especially small dogs, and Jack Russells in particular. Now, I'm not a very emotional person, and I've never been one to drool over a little dog or a child, but if anyone is looking for a small animal to brighten their lives, then I would say go for it, because a terrier, like the lively Jack Russell, will turn a house into a home and add another welcome dimension to your day. They can be bossy little animals, and they don't suffer fools gladly, as I find out to my cost, but well worth a little bit of TLC. We've had two Jack Russells, a short-legged one, and later the long-legged variety. The following is the first chapter of my book about a Jack Russell. It's called Little Nelson, by Harry Riley. Little Nelson exploded into our lives like a stick of dynamite. He was a pocket-sized giant with a heart as big as a lion. Right from the first moment he joined us, I became number 3 in the pecking order and had to fight my corner for attention. I was seen as the main competition, especially at meal times. "Keep away, pal, this is my dish," is what he would say, in his own doggy way. He must have been about 3 or 4 years old at the time, and we had him for 10 fun-filled and action-packed years until his sad death. This book is not meant to be a lovesick tribute to a simpering lap dog. Nelson was none of those, but a remarkable Jack Russell and a great companion. I must confess that I personally had a lot of problems with him in the early days, trying to break him into my commands, as he was a wild thing and had a mind of his own. He was so self-willed and stubborn that there were times I thought it would never work. As a boy, I'd had a German shepherd dog called Rob from a pup, and used to let him have a swim each morning in a nearby lake before I went to school. He and I hit it off right from the beginning, and he would obey my commands unquestionably. Not so with little Nelson. He would ignore me and carry on doing his own thing, as if I didn't exist. I soon found out that many Jack Russells are like this, a breed apart, and can be awkward little monsters at the best of times, but superb friends for all that. If ever a dog could be described as a man's man, then that was little Nelson. But he liked the ladies of his own species and the human variety too, and they certainly loved him. My wife Margaret forged an immediate bond with him as she fed him each day. To him she was leader of the pack. He would follow her around the house and really left her side, becoming her shadow and protector. He knew whenever a butter pot was about to be emptied, and it would then be for him. He used to nudge me to one side quite aggressively, to keep me well away, as he suspected I was trying to muscle in on his special treats. Of course, he wasn't to know it, but I would say in my own defence that I have never licked a butter pot in my life. But let me start at the beginning. The kids had grown up and were off doing their own thing. Uncaring, as kids often are at that age, they'd left a vacuum, a big hole in the home and its acoustics. Where there'd been a constant buzz and lively chatter each day, there was now just the two of us, man and wife, to rattle around an empty house. That is to say, when we were there. For most weekends, particularly in summer, weather permitting, we would pack our bags and be off to our 4-hour drive to our retreat, a cottage in the Scottish borders, in a little village called Norbridge on the banks of the tidal River Tweed. You won't find this on the map because I've changed the name to protect the innocent. This is a wonderful enchanted place with an old bridge crossing the fine salmon river that links England with Scotland. It's famous as a spot where Robert the Bruce once laid siege to the castle on the hill overlooking the village. And that's a clue. Anyway, it's such good walking country around the borders and the coastal areas that we thought it would be nice to get a dog. We've had dogs before and since. Another Jack Russell named Nelson too, or Big Nelson. And even a cat when we first married. But this time we knew we didn't want a pup. Perhaps a dog, with 2 or 3 years under his belt, yes, you've spotted it, we wanted a male dog. And he had to be fairly small for our smallish house, and short-haired. We had a good idea which breeds to consider. And also our daughter Karen still came to stay with us from time to time, and she suffers from asthma, so we had to be careful not to leave many dog ears about. Well, we went along to our nearest animal rescue centre, and after explaining our quest, walked along the aisle between 2 rows of tall steel wire cages. There were several noisy dogs in each cage, all baying wildly for attention. Karen was with us on this special occasion to help us make a reasonable choice. Teenagers can be very patronising to parents, as I'm sure you're aware. It was very disappointing. In a matter of minutes we'd seen lots of dogs, but although many jumped out at us and said, "Take me home," none seemed quite right for us. Reluctantly, we told the smiling young kennel maid we were unable to make a choice and would have to try again another time. However, she persuaded us to do another walk by. We did so without much enthusiasm. There were dogs of all shapes and sizes, but we were out of luck. And then amongst the noisy Yorkies, yapping away, big Dalmatians, the fussy Spaniels and the beautiful big-eyed Labradors, we spotted a quiet Jack Russell. He was one of the short-leg variety. His colouring was solid tan over the whole of his back, but from neck to chest he was pure white. He'd been inside the kennel at the rear of the cage, coming out eventually to see what all the commotion was about, and was now strutting up and down in front of the others with his head held high. As high as it would go, being attached to a ridiculously low body, with his belly only inches from the floor. Even so, in his own quiet way, he had a certain presence, and I remarked he was like a general inspecting his troops on parade. We asked for a collar and lead, and Karen did a walk test up and down the centre of the aisle, with the other dogs looking on. They all went silent as he swaggered by, again raising his head imperiously. We took him home without hesitation, and called him Little Nelson. It seemed he had chosen us. From the moment he arrived, he became one of the family. Once the car was in the drive and we'd shut the gate, he leapt out of the back and immediately found and started dribbling a large round stone back between his legs. I was ordered by 2 enraptured females to go out and buy him a ball. He was in control from that moment on. End.